Good morning, everyone. Um, Thanks for joining us, and welcome to the very first Visio session at Microsoft Ignite. We welcome you all. Before I start, I would like to introduce your host today. I am Pankaj Jain, Senior Program Manager at Microsoft. My colleague and co-host, Kanishka Srivastava, he is also a Senior PM in Microsoft. We both are responsible for Visio product development, which includes Visio client as well as Visio services. In order to best utilize your time and give it to the full justice, I would like to know a little bit about my audience. So please help me understand how many of you are using Visio 2013 currently? Great. How many of you are on Visio 2010? Nice. And anybody who is on even the prior version or new to Visio? Wow, this is really meeting our expectation. So that's perfect with our agenda today, because what we're going to do today is, because some of you are on the prior version of Visio, we will talk about the core capabilities and offering that Visio provides in different domains and how it is helping solving the visualization problem for different organizations. And later part, Kanishka will talk about the Visio 26 overview, where we'll talk about all the new functionalities and new features that are coming up. So you will have a very good idea whether you're on, irrespective of your version, you will exactly know what all you can do with Visio 2016. At the end, we'll take the question and answer. So if you have any question, please hold on to it, and we'll take it at the end. We have some of gifts to give away at the end based on the question. We'll give it up. Little bit about this session. We'll have few slides, but rather we will let Visio talk rather than we talk. What it means is it will be very demo heavy session, so it will keep you awake in early morning. All right, so let's start. Let me just first explain why the visualization is super important, especially at this point of time. So if you see how the world technology has evolved in few decades, there was a time when the world was behind solving the computation problem. And probably that is the time the supercomputer has been invented. Once we solved that problem, then, we wanted to have the connectivity. We wanted to get information. We wanted to get access to others' information. We wanted to communicate more frequently. And that is the time the internet has been invented. And once we solved the internet problem, we had the high-speed connectivity, then a lot of content has been created. This content was in different form. It was in document, it was in database, it was on the website. Now people have a lot of content, but that was not enough, because you need to access a relevant content, and that is the time probably people have started looking into the search, and all the search engine has been evolved. So till this point of time, we had high-speed computers, we had super high connectivity, high-speed internet, we had tons of content, we have wealth of content, and ability to get the right data for the business problem we wanted to solve, or for any specific problem. But the problem is, this data that we are getting is still very complex. And that is why if you have to make the business inside, even though a lot of tools are there to give you for analytics and for the business inside, but it's still, because the nature of the content, given that it's very complex and too much of data, visualization is something which we believe is extremely important to simplify it. And it will help in two ways. One is simplify the content so that you can analyze it better. And second, once you analyze and make the business insight and make improvements, for example, if you make the process improvements, how you are going to communicate to the rest of the stakeholders. And that is where we believe that visualization is very, very important, and that is where Visio is playing key role in industry. To prove my point, let me just take one example. Few months back, we visited one of our key customers in manufacturing. They had a dedicated team for throughput analysis because manufacturing process is really core to their business. What they mentioned is very interesting thing. They said, yes, throughput analysis is one of the complex thing because you have to run a lot of simulation and find out what is wrong with the particular process. But that is only one part of the problem. There is another bigger challenge lies when you make the improvements, when you make the process enhancement, how you are going to communicate to the rest of the organization. Because those who are making the process changes and those who are going to execute it, they are the two different people. So it's very, very important for organization to be efficient, to communicate all these changes efficiently. And that is where we believe is Visio is helping a lot. What Visio let you do is pretty much visualize any content, any domain, or for any industry. And I'll show all those scenarios. Then once you visualize it, Visio also let you analyze the data by connecting its diagram with live data. And at the end, Visio will also help you to communicate within the organization so that the entire organization will have one single truth and there is no confusion, no loss of efficiency. So as I mentioned, there is a complex business information. What are the examples of complex business and information that Visio is solving? Let me just walk you through some of the examples. For example, as you guys are from IT background, this is the first thing I want to show, where network admin would like to monitor its network health. Or there might be a data center monitoring where he has to do pretty much on the regular basis. And this is where Visio is very powerful. Pretty much 80% of network industry is using Visio for monitoring their health. Software diagrams. Think about an IT engineer or a software engineer who is designing its software, try to communicate all the sequences, all the design architecture, and that is where UML sequence diagram, UML class diagrams comes very handy. Another domain is HR, where probably a HR person would like to show off or showcase to new hire how the organization looks. And this is where, again, Visio is playing very powerful role because it let you create a big organization in just few clicks. Facility management, another very, very interesting area where Visio is very popular. Think about a situation where you have to create a complex architectural diagram for a big hospital which is multi-story and thousands of beds in it. And that is what Visio allow you to do it. Operation management. Again, let me take another example to show the scalability of Visio. We have customers who are designing their aircraft completely in Visio. So somebody take the Visio diagrams working in the cockpit to create the aircraft. And that is where Visio is useful. Another example you can see is somebody is monitoring the downtime of the assembly range, where they can pretty much monitor every single data. This is another example from the retail, where probably a retail manager would like to keep track of its inventory so that it can react fast. More examples. CRM. Visio can be used as the front end for any CRM portal. These are all the real examples. This is one of the partners has been created where he is getting all the past data of the patient and including with the present data and giving it to physician so that he can analyze the situation without wasting too much of time. Business process management. It's a buzzword around, and one of the really, really important area which is very core to the business, and we provide all sort of supports like creating BPM and diagram and validating them and all sort of cross-functional flowcharts. So these are some of the examples I wanted to take to showcase that how varied Visio can cover, what are the different domains, and these are just few examples. Pretty much every domain we cover, we have a specific solution within Visio. Now, I talked enough. As I said, I will let Visio talk. So what I'm going to do now is I will showcase some of the core Visio functionality to demonstrate the Visio power. So let me switch to the demo machine, and Kanishka will help me there. All right. So the way I have organized this demonstration is in 3 parts, because that is what any diagramming life cycle is about. The first part is typically what you have is a lot of data in different format. It's not always that you have a diagram in mind and then you start creating. For example, let's take the example from the facility management, where I said you have a big hospital and you want to create diagram out of it. Obviously, you are not going to drop every shape from your shape panel. Rather, most likely the information will be available in AutoCAD form. So Visio will let you create a diagram very quickly from AutoCAD. So Kanishka, you want to insert AutoCAD file there? So it will ask you the scale and other things, and once you are done, boom, your diagram has been created. You have 2 options. Either you can consume it as is without AutoCAD, or you can convert this into Visio shape by just right click and convert into the Visio shape. It will convert every individual shape into a Visio shape, and you can build any solution on top of it. So that's the kind of power. Now, what I want to show here, there is no loss of information during the translation. So for example, if you zoom a little bit and more and more and more, Visio will let you zoom till, I have seen files where people have zoomed till 90,000%, so that you can see every bit of information. So the fidelity and the fidelity that Visio provides is huge. There is no tool out there which can provide such zoom level. So this is one example. Let's take another example where if you have a data in some other format, how easy it is to create diagram from it. Let's take example of the organization chart. Most likely you have your organization information, especially for big enterprise, either in Microsoft Exchange Service Directory or it could be in Excel. For this demo, I will showcase how easy it is to create a diagram from Excel. So what we will do is we will import an Excel file. All you have to do is point to the right Excel file. It will ask a bunch of questions, and at the end probably it will also ask if you have any picture associated with your organization. It will include that as well, and here you go. Your organization chart has been created. Even though for this demo I demonstrate a very small org chart, but the same process will work for organization like Microsoft. I personally created a Microsoft org chart within Visio, and it worked very well. So you can imagine the kind of scale Visio provides. So what I just showed you is how easy it is if you have already some information, so how you can create diagram out of it. Obviously, the next step is to finish your diagram, make it more professional, make it so that it can suit your need. Visio provides a lot of such functionality. Rather than going in too much of detail, I will just show off some of the functionality on the org chart itself. So probably you may want to change the style because it's not that visually appealing. All you need to do is just press on one of the pre-formatted style that Visio provides, and here you go. What if you have more people in your organization? Let's create a vacancy under the director. All you need to do is just drag and drop, and Visio actually knows where the position for this particular shape. You may want to change the layout. So maybe you want to more in the tree form. It will let you do it. So the reason I'm showing all these small features, because it will showcase that once you have a diagram that probably you have created from any data or by manually created, how easy it is to convert that into a more professional looking diagram in meeting your needs. Now let me showcase another important functionality which really make Visio way stronger from any of its competitor. Visio shapes are not only visuals. Rather, there is a lot of metadata information resides behind the shape. There is something called shape sheet, which defined every single characteristic of the shape. And there is you can customize this data. There is something called shape data. So if you what Kanishka is showing there is a window which is a shape data which will drive the behavior and look and feel of this particular shape. So this is a smart shape which is a clothing hanger for the retail. As the probably the retail manager is interested in tracking the inventory of this of the different sizes. So you can see this shape which is a hanger. Now let me just change if the sales are going fine, then probably the clothing the clause on this hanger will go down. Let's make it to 5. So what Kanishka just did is he just changed the shape data which might be coming from any other source. He just manually changed it. The look and feel of the visual has changed. That is what we call the smartness within the Visio. And that is why we say that it's beyond just visual. So these are the some of the examples we wanted to show. Now the last part of this demonstration is about you created the diagram from your data, you have completed it, but Visio does not stop there. It will take you to the one level beyond diagramming, and that is what we call post-diagramming stage. Typically, once you create a diagram, you may want to perform several other activities. For most of the cases, people go and use other tools, but there is no need if you are using Visio. So let's take example of the flowchart. Even though it's a very simple flowchart, but think about a flowchart which is having 1,000 shapes. How you will ensure that my diagram is compliant. It is following all the and there is no missing piece behind it. So for this purpose, what we can do is you can quickly go within the process tab and say I want to check my diagram. Here what you can do is can you go back? Right. So Visio, no, just click on check diagram. Yeah. So Visio let you rules to check. Visio let you define your own set of rules. Right now, what rules we have is a flowchart rule, but you can define your own rule, and then you can run this to verify that your diagram is following compliance or not. So let's in this example, let's remove one of the connector and see what happens. So far my diagram was okay, but now if I check my diagram again, you will see at the bottom that there is something wrong with this diagram. So these kind of activity you perform once you create the diagram, especially when in a big organization where sharing is very common phenomena. Now let's move on to another scenario to again demonstrate what other activities you can do once you create the diagram. Let's take the example from inventory management. Here is a simple layout of one of the hotel. Now probably the inventory manager would like to keep track of all the inventory. All you need to do is under the review tab, you go to shape reports, which help you customize any kind of report that you want. Here for the sake of time, I created my own report, which comes also as default with Visio, is the inventory report. Once you do that and you just run it, it will prompt you that in which format you want this report. Let's choose Excel in this case. Can you make it big? Yep. All right. So your inventory report is there. Now it has shown all the inventory that you have, and then you can customize this report. So these kind of scenarios are extremely important for several domains. Like you may want to create asset management, move management. If you have the process diagram, you may want to know which process is taking which much of time, what is the total time taken from once you start the process to the end of the process. So all these sorts of reports are extremely easy once you have the diagram in Visio. Okay, so these are the 3 steps I wanted to showcase here, where you have a diagram, you have a data, you wanted to create it, you want to finish the diagram, and Visio will take you to the one more level where you will perform a lot of other activities once you create the diagrams. So this is the complete life cycle of Visio. Now let me move back to my slides. All right, so let me summarize all the Visio capabilities, and I have mentioned few more. The first thing is about scalability. As I mentioned, whether it's a huge org chart or huge layout of any hospital, Visio can handle thousands of shape on its canvas. It's high fidelity. You can zoom to any level, and there is no loss of information. You can print on any size of the page, and it will just work fine. I already mentioned about the smart shapes. Data linking is something I will leave it for Kanishka. I won't steal his demo thunder, so he will talk in detail about it. Collaboration is another interesting area. Visio let you work multiple people on the same diagram. You can provide feedback either using Visio services or within the Visio client itself at the shape level. It's at as granular as the shape level. We have a extremely good integration with Office. You can take pretty much any Visio diagram, copy it in Word or PowerPoint, and embed it there. You can modify the diagram within the any Office application. You can consume Visio diagram anywhere you want, whether you have the Visio client or not, because we realize that there are very few people who create the diagram, but there's a lot more people who consume it. And obviously, you will not need license for it. So there is a Visio services which comes with O365 SharePoint, especially with the E3 and E4 Cal, which help once you start that service, you can pretty much consume your diagram on any browser, on any device. For IT Pro, extensibility is another important area. Visio is not just a diagramming tool, rather I will classify it as a platform. It's a visualization platform. We have a very rich and exhaustive list of APIs that we provide, which at whether it's a page level or it's at template level or at shape level, you can pretty much do whatever you can do in Visio client, you can do with your APIs. And these APIs, especially in the context of O365 Visio services, it works very well because you can work with different web part, you can work with SharePoint list, and create all kinds of dashboard scenarios. So this is the overview of Visio. I hope it will probably match one of your requirement. These all are the technical capabilities. Let me just in last slide share some of the business facts. The Visio is one of the very fast selling product. Every 16 seconds, by the time I will finish this sentence, one copy of Visio has been sold. It has a global install base. 95% of Fortune 100 companies are using Visio. As I mentioned, for example, in network industry, 80% of the network industry is using Visio. Same, there's almost huge customer base who are using Visio for flow charting, facility management, engineering diagrams, all sort of things. We have a happy customer base of 12 million users who are using Visio and providing us feedback, which help us in improving our product day by day. And this is an important area. We have an extremely strong ecosystem like any other Office application. We have several partners, some of them are sitting here, that has done wonderful work in taking Visio to the next level and solving a very specific need for a given domain for the customers. And we have around 200,000 shapes out there, which are created by the third parties, which is multiple times of what we ship in box in Visio. As I mentioned, a lot of vertical solutions are available, whether it's a nuclear power plant or a chemical industry or business process management, you name it, and pretty much in every domain you will find several partners creating exciting and valuable solution. So this is pretty much it from my side. Now I will invite Kanishka to take you through the specific changes that we have done in Visio 2016.
Okay, so good morning everyone. I'm Kanishk, the Senior Program Manager in the Visio team, and I'll be taking you through the second part of the presentation. Now, before I jump into the demos, I will just set the context briefly by giving you the overview of the milestones that we've had in the Visio's journey till now. So Visio has been the leader in the diagramming space for the last 2 decades. So in 1992, it started as a standalone app, and by 2000, we were part of the larger Office family. In 2007, we went after visualization of complex business data, and by 2010, since web had become really very important, we focused on consumption across devices through Visio services. And finally, in our last release, our focus was on collaboration. So what's the one for this release? It's actually Visio for everyone. So as Pankaj had mentioned in his first couple of slides, that there have been 2 major changes in the ecosystem, in Visio's ecosystem. First one is that a lot of information is being digitized, and this information is really very critical to companies. They have all their processes being documented, all their organizations' internal structures being put in Visio, and security of that information is really very paramount. And secondly, and perhaps even more importantly, all this data is no longer in the hands of the select few. It's actually being handled by almost everyone in the organization. So right from your HR to your team admin, or your facilities manager to your network administrator, everyone has a lot of data that needs to be represented visually, and it has to be consumed and shared visually. And therefore, in this release, we had to balance simplicity and quickness with the advanced features that we were giving out. So instead of running through the list of features, I'll actually start with the demo. And I'll start with the first step here, which is okay. Okay, so I'll start with the first step. So when we did our last release and just went to our customers, what we identified was that there was a considerable gap between organizations' diagramming needs and actually Visio's usage. And one of the main reasons was that for the first time user, it wasn't really very simple to get started. For some of them, blank canvas was a little intimidating. They did not know how to start, or once they've started, what to do next. And as we gave it a little deeper thought, we understood that it's actually quite natural. For example, if I have to create my resume, I know roughly what goes in there, but I find it hard to get started. Whereas if I get my friend's resume, it's really very simple to start from there. Maybe I'll use none of his data, but I can actually get to my final resume much, much faster. And that was the trick. Something we probably had to add, something that would provoke people's thoughts and get them started with the diagram. And hence we added 40 plus starter diagrams across Visio's domains to help the first time users start and get to their diagram, end of the diagram very seamlessly. So let's first take the case of a cross-functional flowchart. And all you have to do is go into the backstage, click on cross-functional flowchart, and instead of just a blank template, you get the option of 3 starter diagrams as well. And once you choose one of them, what you see on the canvas is that there are the building blocks that are the shapes that people would use to create a cross-functional flowchart. You also have the basic structure in there, and the swim lanes, which are actually the really required for a cross-functional flowchart. So a user may not initially know how to create a swim lane, but he's already got one. And there are tips at the bottom, and I'll come to that shortly. So in order to complete his diagram, all the user has to do is add a couple of shapes, maybe change the text, and he gets started and is able to finish his diagram. So, and we haven't just stopped there. What we've also then realized is for each of the domains, there are first few things that user we can help the users with, so that they can actually start creating more professional looking diagrams right from the start. And that's where the tips at the bottom come in. For example, the first tip on the left hand side actually tells the user that there's a very easy way for him to make this diagram look a little more professional by going to the design tab and checking the themes out. So that was for the first time user. Now over to the basic user who's learned a bit of Visio by doing some of this. Now, as you know, Visio is a very powerful tool. It has over 1,000+ commands at users' disposal. And one of the most important things at this stage is to make sure that the relevant commands are surfaced to the users at the right time. And this is where integration with Tellme becomes really very useful for Visio. So Tellme is the intelligent intent-driven tool that allows the user to access his commands, the ones that he is looking for. So for example, let's take the previous case where I wanted to just change themes and I didn't know how to do it. So I'll just type that in the box at the top center, and in line you have the ability to change themes. Let's try something that's little more advanced, probably the validation that Pankaj just showed earlier. So if I want to validate the diagram, I just type that into the Tellme box, and it gives me the option to check diagram. Now this is where Tellme becomes really very interesting, because I didn't type the right set of words, but it understood the intent and it made sure that it surfaces the right functionality. And this is how the users can now start learning about the new set of features that we have at their own pace and in the direction or the functionalities that they really need very, very easily. Now, that was about Tellme integration. Now we'll move on to a lot of content improvement that we've done in this release. So let's take the case of a facilities manager who wants to complete the flowchart that he's just been created. So what you see on your screen is is actually the office diagram that he's been creating. So there are actually bunch of shapes that are already put in. So there are cubicles in the center and on the right. On the left hand side of the screen, these are the offices, and then there's a conference room and a recreational room as well. So what you see here is really fresh, modern looking content that we've put in. There are modern figurines, and we've just refreshed our entire content here. And in order to say complete the diagram, what the facilities manager would perhaps do is say drop the table in the conference room. But the table is a little too small, and what he needs is probably to increase the size of the table and add a few chairs and then make the proper adjustments. So as he starts increasing the size of the table, that's when Visio's smart shape kick in. So the shapes automatically understand that if it's a bigger table, you need more chairs, and they add more chairs and place them accordingly. So a lot of my efforts saved, and these new smart shapes are actually helping me create the diagrams faster. Or for example, if I have to drop a waiting chair in the recreational room, so I just drop the chairs there, and as I extend the chairs, it knows that instead of increasing the size, what's required is increasing the number. And so through these smart shapes, we've made it much more easier for people to actually start completing their diagrams. Now, what we just saw was the example of the new refreshed content, the fresher looking shapes, the smart tables and chairs, and this is just a small part of the overall Visio's effort in making sure that we provide you fresh and modern looking content to create your diagrams better. In fact, in the last release, we focused on business and network, And in this one, we've refreshed all our layouts and electrical templates. And okay, so in fact, let's move over to the electrical, some of the improvements that we've done in the electrical template. So here, we've made changes to ensure that our shapes are now designed such that you can create IEEE standard electrical diagrams much more simply. So what we have here is a circuit diagram that already has quite a few elements in it, and and probably to complete the diagram, I have to drop a capacitor because the electrical diagrams change very quickly. So what you just saw was as soon as the capacitor was brought in close to the network, it actually snapped, auto-snapped. So instead of having to break the circuit, place it in the right place, and do all the adjustment, it just worked automatically. In fact, it also got labeled automatically because I had capacitors already, 2 capacitors already there. This is labeled as C3. So this is another bit of smartness that we've added here while refreshing the entire stencil. As we can actually try one more where we'll probably add another connector in to the diagram, and there, as I place the ends properly, what we see is the proper junction points are added. Now, this was also an important ask from our customers, that in order to meet the IEEE standards, that's what was required, and now we do that almost seamlessly. So these are just some of the examples of the content improvements and the smartness that we've added. In fact, we've updated 750 plus shapes in this release itself, and we'll continue to do so to ensure that you have all the modern and fresh looking content that we have. So now that all our content's been created, let's move over to the next most important thing, which is how do we secure this content. Now, all the company's internal processes, their confidential information is residing in documents, and Visio, the information that resides in Visio is probably equally, if not more important. And we had a very strong ask around making sure that we do proper protection of these documents. And with IRM implementation, we've made sure that we check all the boxes there. So now from the client, you can just go to the backstage and make sure that, and go to protect document to have the proper read-write access or print the document properly. So all you have to do is just click on the protect document in the backstage. We've also integrated with Outlook, so if you IRM protect your Outlook email, Visio will inherit all its properties. In fact, we've also added file expiration support, so I could easily say that, say the Visio file that I'm just using should not be viewable after Ignite's done by Friday, and that's also possible. And now finally to the last part of the demo, which is also probably the most interesting one, which is the data linking, the rapid data linking feature that we've built. So as we mentioned initially, that everyone in the organization has a lot of data, and they want to represent this visually, and this is where our new feature comes in. The rapid data linking feature will allow everyone to have their Visio diagrams come alive with data with just a few clicks. And by everyone, I mean really everyone. And some parts of this functionality were present earlier, and real experts could do things, but we've enhanced the functionality and made sure that it's become really, really simple. Now, there's just one caveat before I start the demo, which is that we are still working on the feature. So these are untested and in fact work in progress bits, and it will take some time in baking. So I have my fingers crossed, and I'll just jump to the demo. So consider the case of a network admin who needs to monitor the health of his network, and what he has with him is just check. 8.
8.
Okay, I don't think this will work though. Let's just duplicate the screen. Okay. So what the network admin has is this Excel sheet which has all the network information. So WhatsApp Gold or any network sniffing tool will give us that, and then he has this nice looking diagram in Visio which represents all his network equipment. So now all he has to do is go to the data tab, click on quick link, select the file that has the data, the one that we just saw, click done and say abracadabra, and that's it. So what we've done here is Visio has become smarter. It has passed through your Excel file and figured out what's the interesting bit of data, imported it to Visio, did the auto linking by marrying this data with what you had on the diagram, and chose a couple of fields to apply, a couple of relevant fields to apply data graphics on. And we say done and we are there. In fact, what we know is that different people might want slightly different fields to be applied on their on their diagram, and that is where the real beauty of this feature comes in, because it's really very easy for you to now choose the fields on which you want to apply the data graphics and choose which data graphics you want to apply. For example, right now the red and green flags here show the status, and the domains also shown here. Probably what I don't need is domain, so I just uncheck it on the right and the domain's gone. And if I'm interested in CPU utilization, what I do is just put a check mark there and I see my CPU utilization numbers there. And if this representation is not as good, I can actually go to the ribbon and choose which one is the best representation for the CPU utilization. Is it a call out? Maybe no icon set, not as good, probably a speedometer is a little better, and that's what we have here. This, so it's really just a matter of a couple of clicks. You choose your field and you choose the data graphic, and that's it. And there's something that's even more interesting here, because all this connectivity is live. So your diagram will change as your data changes. So in fact, we can actually go to the Excel sheet and make a few modifications. In fact, let's first see a couple of things here. So our router 2 here right now is not linked to any of the data, and say this machine Jack is currently has what CPU utilization of 24. Let's try and change these things and see what happens in the data. So we have Jack. We'll probably change the CPU utilization from 24 to what, 80, and probably add a row for router at the end. So a new row of data is coming in, and let's see how it marries with our data, our diagram. So all we have to do is, have you saved it?
Yeah.
Because that is something that we will still require. It's not smarter. So you just press refresh, and what you see here is that first of all, Jack's CPU utilization has changed, and in fact, even more interestingly, router 2, we've identified that new data has got added. We have all the intelligence built in so that we can actually link it properly to the right set of data and show the right data graphics based on what you had already applied. In fact, if you want to do further customizations by saying that on router I don't need, say, CPU utilization, you could always uncheck that, and it just goes away from some particular shapes and not from all of them. So all these things are already built in. We are currently working on improving the data graphics, or even having the functionality of just changing one and the position of one and making sure that the entire series changes its position. And the real good part here is that once you put this on SharePoint, you can actually have this getting automatically updated, and everyone in your organization can actually see live data being represented. It's great for dashboarding scenarios, something that you would want your entire organizations to see, and can be, as you saw, can be done in just a couple of clicks here. So, and this was an example in the networking domain, but something similar you can see the office layout that we had just seen earlier. So here your name and location is something that we already that are shown as data graphics, and through color by value what we've shown is that these the two cubicles and the office on the left, the one can you go back through color by value, we've shown that the two cubicles and the office on the left are actually vacant. So your facilities manager or your HR admin can just see that, okay, these are the places that are vacant, and you could then allot people the new places, and they can do all this visually. And there are other examples in other domains. For example, let's move to the org chart. So these are some of the representations that we can have for sales data or for contact info of people, or we can move to the process flow chart where we can see what's the time that each process is taking, or how many people are working on these processes, and all this is live. So as the time taken by a particular process changes, all this data will get updated automatically. So this is the new rapid data linking feature, which we now believe everyone in your organization should be able to do. Okay, so let me switch back to the main slide deck. So let me summarize what you just saw. So our new offering in this release, which we believe is really very strong, is divided into three main buckets. First one is the new value that we are providing to the information workers. As we said, we want to ensure that now everyone should be able to create their diagrams better. So what we saw there were starter diagrams for the new user, tell me integration to make sure all the new powerful functionality gets surfaced better, and rapid data linking, which is perhaps the marquee feature of the release, to make sure that now everyone in the organization is able to add data to their diagrams and have the live data linking going on. Then the second bucket is having fresh and relevant content, and this is where we saw the refreshed layout and electrical engineering shapes that we've added. We've also what I couldn't show because of paucity of time was the sample diagrams that we've provided. So this will help the users to create content with much less effort by just getting the ideas from something that we already have in there. And finally, better together with our Office Mothership and SharePoint, where we now have deep integration with Delve, which is the new offering that can get you to your Visio documents much faster. IRM is something that we've already seen. Then on the security front, two-factor authentication was another big requirement from government and several industries that we had, and that's been met now. Accessibility is another area where we've put in some time to make sure that people of all abilities are able to realize their full potential. And finally, we made sure that on modern high DPI devices, we are able to have proper rendering. Okay, now that's what we have for Office 16. Do make sure that you attend the other two Visio sessions. The first one talks about a case study where a lot of process improvements have been done, and through lean organizations. We'll have Christoph, Jervin, and Jana giving that presentation with the help of Shinai. And finally, there will be a technical deep dive of Visio Pro, where you will have a lot of details on data linking and more interesting stuff that you can do with it. And Chris and Scott will be presenting that session. The first one's on tomorrow, same time, and the second one's on Friday, again 9 a.m. And finally, do remember to give feedback. This is really very important for us. And any questions?
So before you ask a question, I have something to give away. Let me ask you one question, and whoever will answer, I have one exciting prize for them. So whoever will raise the hand first. So tell me, in how many seconds one Visio copy has been sold? Who said 16 first? All right, here you go.
Someone?
Here's the prize for you. Please come. Scott, we have there is a step-by-step Microsoft Visio 2013 book written by Scott. So maybe he would sign for you. Thank you. Now we are open up for Q&A.
Right now we're on Visio 2010, and one of the reasons we haven't moved to 2013 is because the database engineering tools were taken away in 2013. What's on the roadmap for returning those to future versions of Visio?
Right. So I would say you are +1. We heard this a lot, and a lot of customers are asking for the same one, and we are definitely considering this is to getting it back. There is a planning team who is working on the roadmap, and probably very soon you will get to know about it.
What about discovery tools like the Active Directory topology diagrammer?
Sorry?
The Active Directory topology diagrammer that was part of Visio 2000 or 2003?
For network discovery, you're saying?
It was for discovery of Active Directory topology.
I see. So I have to check on that. At least at this point of time, we have not heard a lot on this particular feature, but we will definitely look into it. Yeah, thank you.
So I have 3 different questions. The first is just sort of a really thing that's been bugging me for a number of versions. I end up doing most of my editing in Visio 2007, and this is because if you drop 2 shapes into a diagram and use the connector tool to connect them, if you want the line to be straight, you have to right-click on it, and in 2013, if you press G twice, there's 2 different menu options that use the G key, and the key sequence to make it straight is right-click G, G, right-click, enter. So that's just been bugging me. I've brought it up a few times, and anyway. Number 2 is there's massive render time improvements decreases from 2007 to 2010 or 2013. Is that something that's been looked at? Or?
So yes, we definitely realized that 2013 that there was a little regression, and in the SP1 we released a patch for it. We are hoping that has been improved. So are you on SP1 for 2013?
I believe so. I do most of my editing in 2007 because of the amount of time that it spends.
So there are a couple of issues there. One is on the rendering thing. There is also issue a little bit about when you move the shapes and zoom specifically. We have tried to fix those in the patch, and we are waiting for more feedback from you guys. If it is still not improved, at least the numbers are showing that it has been improved tremendously, at least in our lab. But if it is not, then we'll definitely happy to look at it.
Sure. And then number 3 is you said you have some users going up to 90,000% zoom on some diagrams. I have 2 specific diagrams that I maintain that are viewed anywhere from minus 50% zoom to get a giant, and this is designed to be printed on 86 by 60 paper. But zoom, in order to get the amount of content into this that's required, I have to go all the way up to sometimes 32,000% zoom, at which point the smallest point font available is 1-point font, which is still way too large for the objects that I need to get the text into. Is there either alternative fonts or another method to prevent me from having to draw out the letters as line vectors and shrink those down to get what I need in there?
I don't think you can go further down below 1.5. But again, I'll say I got the feedback and I'll look at it. At this point, I don't remember any solution to solve that. Thank you.
So my question is on Visio 2013, and I don't do as much technical stuff, but I'm a big fan of Visio for the business office process. The print driver.
Sorry?
The print driver for 2013 is kind of schizophrenic. It just, I don't know if anybody, we haven't been able to figure it out. Have you had any reports of different, we've tried different printers, different...
So this is something
scenarios?
new to, you are saying for certain printer it's not working?
No, yeah. You tell it to print 2 copies, you get 20 copies.
We haven't.
Anybody else? Thank you. But it's not a...
Comments a lot with printing PDFs.
Yeah. Or it defaults so it prints all pages, so it's not like Excel where it remembers you're printing 1 page, and you just end up with the printer just spewing out things all over.
You understood the scenario?
So connectivity with printer was one that we understood. It's just that we hadn't heard about this earlier. So this is a good feedback. Maybe we can sync up offline and try and get, I don't know whether it's file specific or your network specific, but we can try and figure out whether that's a generic problem and then solve it.
Okay. And thanks for the 1%.
So just for a reminder, anyone who have question cannot be answered here, you can go to our booth. We have staff over there can answer your questions. And then always check back on our Facebook page or Twitter handle, Visio, and you can ask your questions, and we have community managers 24/7. No, but he will be there to answer your questions as well.
Yeah, please.
I was just curious, as far as Visio and project being closely tied together, I've heard a lot about that. I was curious is when we're doing some of our critical path or precedence diagramming when we're working on certain things, we'll do a lot of that within project at a higher level, but when we drill down to it, we want to get into Visio so people can see some of the more discrete tasks. If we're stringing those across multiple pages, you showed how you can aggregate that data or pull that data across into a summary form. Can you do that across multiple pages, or is that something y'all are planning to do? So if I have certain tasks that are queued up across multiple different processes, if I want to see where my bottlenecks are, is that something that can aggregate across the entire book per se?
So you can do for multiple pages. In fact, once you import the data, you can change the page, and whatever you will do will applicable to that particular page. Beyond that, you can also import multiple data sources as well. So it's a multi-page, a multi-data source support.
Okay. And then lastly is a lot of our engineers, they'll draw in CAD first, and they'll start out through that when they're brainstorming, trying to do those things. Is there any translation between those two? Is there any API that'll take whatever they've rendered and they can basically pop it out into Visio and kind of take a second look at it and say, does that really make sense? And kind of use those tools collaboratively?
Sorry, can you repeat? The audio is little...
Sure. So
I can actually come down.
Yeah. So some of our engineers are using all their different CAD tools just for brainstorming and things of that nature, just to get a good visual on it. But as they've drawn this thing out, they want to look back at it from a process engineering standpoint. Is there any tie between those two things where I can take something I've rendered in CAD and then flip it over into something that's more process-oriented via Visio?
Are you talking about layer management, that you have layers of process on top of your CAD drawing and you want to just turn it on and off?
Yeah.
So if you go to layer button and you can kind of turn certain layer on and off, you know that window?
Yeah.
Okay, that might be the solution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take a second look at that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. Feel free to drop by the booth if you want us to show you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, please.
I apologize if you addressed this earlier in the session. I missed it, but we got more and more Mac users. So the question is always Visio for Mac. Right now we're doing parallels with Windows on a Mac, but any future roadmap for Visio for Mac, because it's really becoming more and more of a pain as we go along here. Because right now we actually have people who are denying the job because they're not getting a Mac. That's how crazy it's getting. So any roadmap, anything you can somewhat share?
One thing I can say, your question is not surprising us. And we have at least this three of us has a view only till this release. There is a planning team who is working on the roadmap, so we'll get to know soon. But
Let me ask the question. When you say you want to use Visio on the Mac, is it totally for readability or is it more for collaboration, viewing, access perspective?
I guess every part. I mean, like I said, right now we put Parallels on the Mac so we could put a Windows desktop, and we're installing Visio that way now. But yeah, it's for all the features that you would use, especially what we've seen today would be, ideal to have everyone to have it. But right now they're doing it, but we're adding a second set of licensing and a second, screen.
We'll definitely take the feedback, and especially when you want to do everything on Mac, we'll definitely take the feedback.
Okay, all right, thank you, appreciate it.
One last T-shirts.
yeah.
I'm a big fan of this import functionality you showed from Excel, and my question was, is there any guidelines or recommendations on how to set up the Excel correctly for a certain kind of Visio template so that it fits really seamlessly and you don't have to rearrange like columns and things in Excel?
That's a very good question. First of all, I'll say.
I would like to take what you yeah, sure. So we are arranging some tips and tricks and webcast sessions across the online and offline experience. We'll definitely take that and then kind of trying to make some training materials out of it. If you are on our office blog, signing on one of our webcasts, we'll take that as well.
Okay, but linking. So, but what's your scenario? Do you already have a diagram created and you want to link that, or do you actually want to create a diagram out of, say, an org chart information?
I just want to build the Excel from ground on, like, so that it fits seamlessly with the respective Visio template.
Okay, but you
not all, but the most important of the templates.
Okay, and you want to create a diagram out of it directly, or the diagram?
That's the functionality you showed today.
Okay.
Okay.
It's connecting the data.
Okay.
The connectivity from Excel and upgrading Excel or another kind of table.
Okay, so if you want to just connect your data from
referring to Visio services.
Okay. Yeah, so if you want to connect your data to your Visio diagram, so all you need is your diagram should probably just have the shape data there, and if one of the columns in your Excel sheet has that shape data, it should work seamlessly.
Okay.
Yeah, so just the primary key needs to match, and rest of the smartness Visio will take care of it.
Yeah, so the primary key in org chart, for example, is the name of the person. And then in the process, it could be like number, like just unique ID of those shapes. And then Excel, as long as you map to those unique IDs, it can automatically be
so we
linked.
don't really want you to modify your Excel. We should work with your Excel. It's just that your diagram should have some element there, maybe shape text, maybe shape data that has at least one primary key matching. In this case, mostly shape text should do the trick for you.
Yeah, and the new feature for the import of the AutoCAD drawings, is it just looking for that extension of the DWG, because our MicroStation has the exact same extension as well as DWG. So I was wondering, will it import those as well?
Yes, it should.
It will.
Yeah.
So it's basically
the file type, suppose. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then one more question. Most of my drawings are done in the 24 by 36. However, when my boss wants to go to a meeting, he doesn't want to take a 24 by 36 print. He would like it on an 8.5 by 11. Will it auto scale on a print? Because in the earlier versions, it didn't do that too well, and you had to rescale everything and redraw everything and kind of shrink it down. Will it do that on the new version?
So I think once you go to the print option, if you choose the right paper size that you have, Visio should just print it fine.
Well, it does on the 24 by 36 because that's the original paper size that it's done in. It's done in the 24 by 36 for a reason, because they're hung on the wall. Except my boss doesn't want it in 24 by 36. He wants it printed in an 8.5 by 11.
So if you want the aspect ratio to be fine, then one easy solution is when you just start your drawing. That's when you can fix your paper size. So that's one easy way to
No,
do
what
it.
he's saying,
Well,
she
what
wants to change
happens,
later.
I have done that, except what happens is that then my drawing's out of scale, and out of whack. It doesn't auto-shrink the drawing down correctly.
Oh, so you need both. Sometimes you
I
want to
need it
print
to all
it.
go down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was wondering if that was incorporated into the new version as well.
We have not, I think that there is a solution already available. There's nothing we have done in this particular
Yeah,
release.
because I
Let me-
have over 1,000 drawings I've done in the 24 by 36 model for a specific reason.
So if you share your contact, probably I will happy to help you on offline. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
For us in IT architecture, we're actually like fans of a lot of stencils from all the vendors when we basically create data centers and things like these. So stencils, we download a lot from Visio Cafe, and we got a lot of them. However, when we basically like unzip them and just put them into our folders of shapes, when it's time to find the correct stencil, you basically have to open one after the other and just figure out, like, is that the shape that I want? No, and then we close it. Is there like a fast preview of stencil that's coming? Like you would just hover over the stencil, it would just tell you, like, give or take what's in there? Is there a feature like that that's on the roadmap?
We'll definitely incorporate your feedback because we know that a lot of people are using third-party stencils. So at this point, we don't have that functionality, but that is something we can look in future.
Is there a common way to just view a lot of stencils very quickly?
They're actually, excuse me, there's a guy named Paul Heber, H-E-B-E-R, and he's got something he calls the Visio Super Utilities that includes a mess of really useful stuff, and one of the things that he does offer is a way to point to a stencil and print a preview or create a preview of all the shapes in the stencil.
So you can you just basically like go down to the list of all stencils. Like for us, we just scroll down and down, right, with all our stencils.
Yeah.
And you just hover and basically just show you what's in there without opening it.
It doesn't work quite that way that I remember. It's been a couple of years since I've used it, but if you Google or you search for Paul Heber and the Visio Super Utilities, you may find that.
In fact, you have 2013 version?
I'm sorry?
You have 2013?
Yes.
Then your Visio viewer should work as is. So for example, when you click on the stencil in your Windows Explorer, it will start showing all the content on the side panel. So you don't have to really open any of your diagram or stencil to see what is in it.
I think what Pankaj is saying is you need, from outside of Visio, using just the Windows Explorer, it's easy to do it. Visio does not have a preview functionality for that.
All right, so outside of Visio, not while you're just scrolling down and you're adding.
Yeah, that we don't have.
Okay, well, we'll give it a try.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
So for creating dynamic drawings from code using the APIs, there isn't a real great way to model how you want your drawing to look like. And so normally you throw all the objects up there and then I have to come in and move them around. So tools like Dot with the GraphViz library on the open source side, it will create those drawings in a at least somewhat pleasant way. With the smart shape, is it possible to model that behavior ahead of time? So even if I don't have the shapes on the drawing yet, at least I have a model of what the drawing should look like. Does the smart shape work like that?
No, it's actually, the smartness is mostly after it's there rather than when you are trying to create it from your code. But I think it will be really interesting in learning your scenarios and figuring out whether it becomes interesting to add.
So for example, with cloud deployments, they're changing all the time. I might have a pool of servers here and another pool of servers in another data center. So at any given time, my drawing is already outdated because my environment is constantly changing. And so when they click on Visio and they bring up the drawing, code will go out and pull out the drawing and pull all the objects in, but it's ugly. And so I have to go in and kind of manipulate it and then export it. What I'd like to be able to do, and I can do this more crudely than Visio with GraphViz and the dot notation, is dynamically create the drawing right away and it kind of looks like an environment. And so if I can model what the pools should look like, however many pool members it brings in, like your table, if it's a small table, it's has 4 chairs around it, but it grows as it needs and it scales as it needs to.
Yeah, I think the difference here is that's just one shape. Here you are talking more about the layout of the diagram itself.
Correct.
Yeah, so but I think we'll be really interested in talking to you in detail about this and understanding the scenario here, because I think this is a powerful scenario and something that we should think about as we are thinking about the future. So we would really like to know about the scenario and then see what we can do about it.
Do you mind drop by our booth? Just
Yeah, so you could just scan and we can
Okay.
talk.
And then next question, for the deep dive on Friday, is that going into API structures at all? Do you know?
We have.
A lot, just a touch.
Okay.
It's more about the data linking and visualization of Visio services, and then some quick bits on designing smart shapes.
Okay.
So we'll touch on the shape sheet a little
Get
bit.
the
not so
email
much
ID.
the API.
But in the last conference, we had a deep dive where we talked about APIs in deep. Probably I can point you to that session.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it's recorded.
I don't
Okay.
have a question here.
Oh,
I can just take a picture and then I'll search this.
okay. Or we can just ask his contact,
It would
because
be
this
really
is
great if,
interesting and something
so
that we're
you
looking
can
at.
organize my shapes and import a whole bunch of, put your own stencil packages into the file structure. But HP specifically is terrible for this. So they publish all of their stencils to Visio Cafe, and you can create a structure with shapes, my shapes, HP shapes, and then the categories. You open them, and then there's like a search box at the top. The search box doesn't actually search the names of the things. So like, I'll open up like, for example, HP DL series servers. There's like maybe 300 shapes in there, and they're all listed as like J1593.
Yes, I have seen those, yes.
And I can't search through that list of 300 for J9583, which is the actual product number. I have to literally scroll through the thing until I can find the J9583. And there's like 200 of them, and they're not in alphabetical, they're not in numerical, they're in date created order, which is just.
But once you have that stencil in Visio, Visio's shape search will allow you to do that.
Sorry, where?
So you have Visio diagram, right? Once you have the stencils added to your template, there's a shape search. That should
So if I take all of the things with the template and copy them into my diagram, sure. But it's very common that I'll have 12 or 15 or 20 different items, right? Like I don't have every single HP server. I have the DL360 and the DL380.
Okay.
The file that contains those has over 400 different shapes in it.
So you want one from a particular stencil and something else from
Yeah, like it's common. I'll start using the diagram, I'll go to the HP shapes, I'll grab a rack, I'll drop it in, I'll go to DL server, drop it in. Then I have to completely different one to find the hard disk to drop that in, and that's fine, like, that's how they organize it. But when I'm going through those files, there's like 300 to 700 items in that list, and they're not alphabetical, they're not.
Yeah. One of the problems there is that, as in, they haven't made their shapes smarter. Normally, as in, they should just have a few shapes, and these should be the functionalities of the shape, so you don't really need those many.
Even as far as shape intelligence, they've made a lot of them intelligent. Like, there's one hard drive,
Yeah.
and that hard drive has all the different file sizes,
Yeah.
all of the different SAS state interfaces.
Yes.
But within, for example, the HP Gen 9 server series, there's 15 different base server
Yeah.
types, and then each of those, there's like 85 different base
Yeah.
I/O modules they can plug in. I mean, I do my diagram at an extreme scale to, and so it was very one-to-one unit measurement to be printed out on 86 by 60 paper. So I'm talking.
Okay.
So let's take this offline.
Yeah.
Sure.